Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you're listening to us from. And this is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where 6 random British guys from around the British Isles come together to talk about anything and everything Detroit Lions. My name's Anthony Fitzpatrick, and I'm joined this evening by 2 of my colleagues. I'm joined by Ryan McCluskey and Tom Wilkinson, who I've not seen for a while. How are you both doing, guys?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good to be on. Good week.
Everything all right with you, Tom? It's been a while since we've seen you on here. All good?
Yeah. All good. All good. And getting excited for camp.
I know. It seems 2 minutes since the draft was around, and now we're at camp already. This thing's just going so quick. But anyhow, we'll move on. So, as you know by now, our podcasters are very hard at work scouring Twitter, Instagram, everywhere, trying to get people to come on to our podcast and do some interviews with us to great success so far. And I'm very glad to announce that once again, we've been successful in finding someone to come on and have a nice chat with us. And we've got a really good one this evening. So I'm going to pass on to Ryan because this is all down to him. He's facilitated this interview with us. So Ryan, if I'll pass it over to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Ant. Yeah, like I say, I just send out loads of messages on social media. I just throw it at the wall and see what sticks. And thankfully, someone came back to me this evening, morning, afternoon. That is the undrafted free agent of the Detroit Lions. That is D'Angelo Amos, the former James Madison Duke and Virginia Cavalier safety. How are you, D'Angelo?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, good, man. Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate your time.
Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah, thanks. It's great to hear from you guys. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Just to give our listeners a bit of a feedback and, like I say, history, I believe you played 44 games at the University of James Madison. You made, I believe, 2 national championship finals. That was with correct me on that, but I believe it's 2017, 2019. You have left the university 2nd all-time in punt return yards, so you were a return specialist in the game. And during the pandemic, you decided to take your final year of eligibility to the FBS and transfer to the Virginia Cavaliers as a redshirt senior, where in your final season in 9 games, you amassed 47 tackles and 2 interceptions. So you were a gadget back all over the defensive backfield. You had hands for the ball, but you also like to make dynamic plays in the return game. So I think it will go straight into the first question from here. How were the emotions watching the draft? Did the advisory board give you a round where you think you'd go? And once the draft ended, how long did it take for the calls to begin, being like a UDFA? How many times did you get called? Did you have a lot of interest? And ultimately, why did you settle for the Lions? What chose them for you?
Well, the draft process for me was a little bit all over the place. I was at first coming out of FCS. I was like, hey, you could be, a mid-round guy. You run a good 40, and with the production that I had at JMU alone was very well. It was just hard for FCS guys to still get drafted. And the question was always, for any FCS guys, can they play with the elite, which in their eyes, the elite is the Power 5 or FBS in general. So playing there kind of answered that question. But then during that draft process, a lot of them was like, hey, you're a safety in the league, so you have to put a little weight on it. So it's like, hey, 190, minimum 190, or show up to pro day 190, run a good 40. We don't expect you to be like blazing fast, but obviously just, run a good 40 and have that weight, and that'll give us a lot to work with when we're talking to, the front office and the staff and coaches and bringing you aboard and having them take a look at you. That went well for me. Pro day did. So a lot of calls, a lot of different teams, no one general area. A lot of them, definitely special teams want to be the return. But also they definitely took note of my IQ for the game, being able to play and understand and being a cerebral guy. And then on draft day, during that process, I was just ready to go at whenever I got that call, and whenever we talk to any team. Each day you talk to teams that morning, so you kind of got to get up early every morning just in case you don't miss a call. But You'll talk to them, and they ask about weight, like, what's your weight right now? Since you're done with your pro day and this, that, and third, have you been staying up to speed? And you just have regular conversations. And a lot of them will be with position. A lot of my conversations with position coaches, still scouts as well. But for me, I was just waiting till like that third day was like the day for me. I was like, hey, you could be a day 3 guy. And it was just like, all right, what's going to happen? Detroit always show interest. I went to College Gridiron Showcase All-Star game or event in Texas, and I talked to him then, to that scout, Jay. And we just kind of hit it off a little bit there, and it kind of just grew from there. There was a couple of teams that I stayed in contact with throughout the whole time. So Detroit was kind of a team that I knew were definitely interested, just that they didn't have that many draft picks this year. So I think they had maybe 6 or 7, so it wasn't that many. So just they're having that conversation. I had the similar conversation with other teams, but some of them were out of the blue. Teams I never talked to the whole time, they're just calling me the day before the draft, during the first 2 days and that third day. So when we got to the end, they were like, hey, we, running out of draft picks, obviously. Every team was. So at that point, I figured, like, hey, it's either going to be a late round pick or undrafted free agent. But to me, it just fired me up more than anything. Just, hey, I felt like I'm a drafted guy. A lot of people think I could be a drafted guy. I should have been. But now I get to prove, why I can once again run with the big dogs and have that draft eligible or draft worthy value to a team. So they believed in me, and that made it an easier choice. I know they had a new staff coming in. So as far as the best opportunity, to come in, make a spot on the roster and do all those things, I felt like it was a fair shake because nobody from this new staff was from the old staff, coaches or anything. So I just felt like it was a fair shake, and it's probably the best situation to be in as an undrafted free agent.
Yeah, I love it.
I totally respect that. Go on, sorry, Tom.
I was just going to say, you mentioned you're a cerebral guy. Obviously, moving for your final year of eligibility to Virginia, what were some of the differences you found in system between JMU and Virginia, either in general defensive system or your role specifically?
Well, with JMU, I was primarily a free safety. There's a couple of games where I would play dime or play nickel or just move around a little bit. But at UVA, it was you're playing everywhere. I remember Clemson games only my second game in the ACC and FBS, and he was like, "Hey, make sure you know all 3 because we're not going to change fields. Well, you got to know when you're the nickel or kind of like that hybrid guy, or if you're the strong or the free, you need to know all of them." And because I transferred so late, it was like, all right, I just got the playbook down in 3 weeks, and now I got to learn the other 2 in a week, and going against Clemson on top of that went before Trevor Lawrence had tested positive and wasn't playing. So it was like, all right, I had Trevor Lawrence had the full deal with Clemson. Yeah, it was really just playing more positions on every down. A lot of times I would come out on third down with JMU so then I could, get a little breather before catching punts. But I didn't catch punts at UVA, so it was like, all right, now we can use you on third down, keep you on the field, and just use you in coverage. So that was probably the biggest difference. And system, the base cover 4 was pretty similar, but there was a couple of tweaks. Every coach has their own little way they want to coach it, but just the front, we're always a 4-2-5 with JMU. With UVA, sometimes it looked like we was in a 3-4. Sometimes it looked like we was in a 5-2. So it just depends on how we want to play those 2 outside linebackers that we had with Noah Taylor and Charles Snowden. They were very athletic. They could do anything. There's a lot of times we would move Noah back and use him, and he looks like a secondary guy. So it was just the athleticism between the 2 to have people be able to play multiple positions at UVA.
Yeah, do you find that your cerebral nature there has helped you more than other guys, right? As in, if others were coming in, they're transferring, they've got to pick up the playbook, they've got to play every position, you're rolling coverages, you're doing all these different looks. Other guys wouldn't be able to do that. So do you feel like that's where you were able to step it up when other guys wouldn't have been?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was part of my coaching with Coach Trot. He used to coach with Belichick, so he broke the game down. When I first got there as a freshman playing corner, he just broke it down completely. He's like, all right, I want you to be able to understand just football first, because that's going to help you learn things faster. Pick up what coverage you're running, whether you're in a regular three match, whatever. If you understand football, it'll help you understand the playbook and what's going on, and what you're being asked to do, and obviously speeding up that learning curve for the NFL. So it definitely gave me an advantage to be able to pick it up. The vet experience from playing in games gave me the advantage a bit at UVA. Compared to the young guys that they had. Most of them were freshmen or second-year guys who didn't play much or if at all. So that gave me the biggest advantage, and this helped me a lot here with Detroit.
So just to touch back on JMU a minute, I mean, obviously you must have a special place in your heart for there. You were there a while. You were one of their, you were up on the leaderboards there. Was it tough having to move on, given the uncertainty around the pandemic, and make the move to Virginia?
Absolutely. It definitely was. I never thought in my eyes, it was one of those things where you see Clemson, the Alabamas, and all those teams. It's like, I wonder if I could, what I do here, would it be the same there, or what's that experience like? But it was always a thought, and I never thought that would be a reality to me. I was like, all right, I'm a fan of JMU. I love the community there. Every summer I was staying there the whole time. So just the relationships built with the community, the coaching staffs, even the new coaching staff with Kurt Signetti that last year, and what we were able to accomplish going to a national championship, it was hard to let that go. The relationships in the locker room is probably the hardest part, because I played with these guys. I built chemistry with these guys. I know them inside and out. So it was hard to be like, hey, wherever you go, you're going to have to redo all of this, but in less time. And I was transferring so late, so it was like kind of like a rush decision. So obviously there was some uncertainty, like, are you making the right decision? And you really don't have the time to really think this completely through. But it was definitely hard to leave a school where I've had so much success and built so many relationships.
Maybe just to quickly add on to that, are you sort of now looking back on it, are you glad that situation happened now that you've went to Virginia, you played a lot of different positions, you picked up a lot there? Are you glad that it did happen in the end?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a believer in God, so I felt like it was what I was meant to do. I was just following the path and a plan that got me to where I wanted to be at the end of the day. Whether I drafted or undrafted, at the end of the day, I'm here. I'm in the door, so it's time to make the best opportunity for it, and that's all I really was asking for, is opportunity.
You mentioned that you felt this was a good scenario because it was all new coaches, there was no favourites. How do you feel you've gelled and got to know Aaron Glenn, Aubrey Pleasant? Do you feel like you're on the same page, mentality, scheme-wise? Like, or is it all new? Like, is it gelling well? Are they good coaches to come under?
Oh, absolutely. I think obviously it's a new staff, and everything's happened so quick. Especially you don't have anybody especially on that defense, who's coached with each other. So they don't have like a history of working together and how they want to do things. So as they're gelling, the better they gel, the better we as players to them, to coaches and to the DC, to Aaron Glenn. That's how we're going to gel. So they spent a lot of time working with each other, and we'll talk, we'll have meetings, be like, hey, this is what we want to run. This is how we want to look. And a lot of extra time was spent, and the whole DB room has been committed to that. We're like, all right, we're going to change a lot of things here. And it's been very positive. Pleasant brings in like the technician part of it, just technique sound. Like, he's going to be what he calls a technician Nazi. So he's going to be on you and make sure no matter what coverage, your technique is going to be spot on. Coach Duker, coming from the Ravens, just different looks and how to disguise. So he brings his part. Aaron Glenn, his 14 years playing in the league, dominating the league, brings in a different look as well. And his knowledge. So it's all bringing in all three parts that you really need to be a great DB or secondary and defense into this NFL and the type of game we play now. And it's starting to work very well for us.
Can I just quickly put in here? Is that all right? Yeah. I was just about to say, there's a lot been made about a lot of the Lions staff, coaches, been former players. For you, is that a big help for you that they have all been in the leagues, that they've been through it themselves, and they've got a lot of insight for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's kind of hard, even in college at any level, when you're talking to or being instructed or taught by somebody who doesn't have that experience. Because when you're out there and something's not working, first thing you're going to think is, I don't think you realize what's really going on, or you don't have that firsthand experience of how this stresses the defense, how this stresses you as your responsibility and what's being asked of you. But when you have people who have that experience, and like I said, with Aaron Glenn playing 14 years, being one of the top corners during his time, he definitely knows exactly what's going on, what's going to stress you, what's going to be hard, but how to make plays, because he did it. So it's not like, oh, it's impossible. He's done it. So it's like, hey, I'm telling you because I was able to accomplish it. And that gives you a little bit more reassurance, helps you listen a lot more. You definitely will buy in, and you won't really second guess anything that he really says.
I really hope there's going to be a coach versus player 7-on-7 at some stage during camp. I watched that. Am I right in thinking Jalen Elliott from back home?
Yes.
Yeah.
We played against each other in basketball, not so much football. Just our divisions were different. But we definitely knew each other before coming here. Grew up high school really together. So it's definitely a friendly face. One of my guys, we're here is everything's 804 this, Richmond that, Virginia that. Like, we always hyping each other up from where our hometown is. Anytime anybody talks about any other state or anything, we're like, nah, Virginia boys, da, da, da. So it's been fun.
Has he been able to help you at all in terms of being in your shoes a year ago, undrafted guy coming in? Obviously, last year was crazy with everything around the pandemic, but this year it's not exactly back to normal. So I'm sure he can pass on wisdom from his experience last year too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's definitely been kind of like that big brother to me. I'm older than him, but he's definitely been the big brother to me. And he's like, hey, when I first got here for OTAs, he's like, hey, come to the apartment. If you ain't got a car, I'll pick you up, and we'll go over the film. We'll study. We'll do whatever you need to get this down, because how hard it is. And it was even harder for him because of the pandemic. Everything was so new. So, and they came in right into training camp. They didn't have OTAs to come to, and rookie minicamp, all this stuff. So he's definitely try to keep my nose in the playbook, especially special teams. He's been big on that. He does a lot for special teams. So he's been bringing me along there too. Like, hey, learn this, learn that. Once you know this, hey, I'm going to help you learn the next one. So he's definitely been very helpful in taking me under his wing.
So now you get into training camp. How excited are you to get to man up to guys against, like TJ Hawkinson? He had a bit of a rough start himself, but last year he had a monster year. He seems to be only getting better. How excited are you to go up against guys like him and learn against the guys who are, at the top of their position skill set?
I mean, for me, it's everything I ever would want as a player, as a competitor. I want to learn from the guys who are dominating the league, or how they move, how they operate as a professional. To go up against them is kind of like figuring out where you at in your game. You may do a lot of things well before, but this is the league now. Everybody's twice as good, 3 times as good. And for him to be a top tight end as well, me being a safety, it's like, all right, when you go up against him, if you can do well and execute against him, you should be in a pretty good spot for most of the league. But obviously you have guys who just are outstanding. So, and they're going to stand out. But for the most part, if you can handle TJ, then you should be pretty good, pretty well off. But that's a lot to handle.
Well, you mentioned there about sort of the upturn in skill sets there. Was there a welcome to the pros moment you had in minicamp or OTAs where you were just like amazed at what maybe TJ or one of his teammates did?
I think it would probably be golf, really. Golf and Swift. He ran like this kind of wheel route. I mean, it wasn't on me, it was on linebacker, but it was like the perfect throw. It was like literally nobody was gonna get that ball but Swift, and Swift even made a great catch to get it. It was one-handed. and he made it really look easy. So it was like, all right, yeah, this is the NFL. You know, every throw you're thinking, all right, throws may be a little off like college. Everybody's not a superstar quarterback, but Goff has made a lot of throws. That's like, hey, that's a throw. Can't beat that. That great coverage, great everything, but that throw made that happen. Like I said, DeAndre Swift, his ability catching out the backfield, making cuts, seeing lanes. And TJ's made some great catches as well. His route running for a tight end is great. There's times you could probably even line him up as a receiver if you honestly wanted to. That and just his ability to run as well. I think he has a little bit more wheels than some people may think.
Just before we touch on to questions of the listeners, I just want to ask, I've done a bit of reading. I like to do a bit of knowledge on you. I know you come from like a strong, large family. I know you've got a lot of siblings. I believe you've got a twin sister, but also you've got a brother, Deshaun.
Yep.
Like I say, he spent time, I believe, with the Steelers. He's now moving on to possibly playing with the Calgary Stampeders in the CFL. I know you've, I believe, did you have like a military background family? Like, was there a chance you could have gone to a military academy? So what have you learned from them? Obviously, you've had people in your family that have played the sport, so they can pass that on. But how has that all moulded you to where you've come now? What have they reached out to you since you had picked up the Lions and give you advice?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most of it is discipline. Coming from a stepdad, dad, and mom who are all military, you're gonna learn to get things done and to listen and to be obedient, you know, respectful, all those things. Going to West Point, you know, Army, the military academy, the prep school, that was kind of like the next step up from my family, but it was also familiar to me. So just learning discipline, learning that you can really push your body, see where your limits are. Running 2 miles, I'm not ready to run 2 miles under whatever time, but you need to do that for a PT test. So it's pushing my body, eating right, drinking water. I never thought I would drink maybe 2 gallons, a gallon and a half maybe, but 2 and 3 gallons of water while I was in the military. Never thought I'd be doing that 7-mile rucks and stuff like that. So really, I really learned a lesson in what you can get your body to do if your mind is in the right place and you're focused. My brother, he's my number one competitor. We've competed. He's only 2 years older than me. So everything has been competition between me and him. It's healthy, but it's made us who we are today. We have a mission, and that's to make it and be well off to the point where our G-Mama and our mom can retire. They still work to this day. My G-Mama works. She gets up 8, 9 in the morning, doesn't get home till 11:30 at night. So, you know, it's just like at your age and all you've been through, you would think that you deserve to, you know, relax and live a little bit. So, and that hasn't been the fortune of our family. But that's what our goal is. So he's always kept me focused, like, hey, this is what you're here to do. Take care of business. He helps me be a professional as well, because he's been there. So he's like, hey, this is what it takes. This is what you're going to need to do. And that hasn't really been the biggest problem because we've always been so mission locked. So learning from him in that aspect, and just they support me. They build me up, check on me, you know, mental health wise, it can be a lot. So they've done it all. They've been in the best support system I could ask for.
So respect that.
Nice. So we've got a few questions from our listeners. So the first one is from Phil, and he was asking, having a lot of film from a smaller school like James Madison, do you think that works against you coming into the draft versus other guys who may be less talented but have played in the SEC for a few years, for example?
Well, Phil, I think it's 50-50. It can go both ways. I mean, good film, a lot of good scouts and coaches, they're going to understand football is football. At the end of the day, certain plays that you make is like, all right, that's just being able to play. That's not talent level, who you playing against. It's like, all right, you're doing it. You know, you're understanding, you're reading, especially when it's cerebral. Like, all right, he understands football. That's something that goes wherever you're at. But also at the same time, when if you make 12, 14 tackles in a game, they're going to say, that's FCS. You'll probably be at like 7 or 8 if you was in the FBS. And that's not because you're less talented or you're not able to play with them. That's just because you're around a bunch of other dogs that's going to make that play before you get there. So It can definitely be a disadvantage. I've seen it happen to one of my guys, Rashad Robinson, who at one point was a second-round draft pick, came back another year. That's when COVID first happened, that March, right before his pro day, and he didn't even get a shot. So he didn't go anywhere. He didn't do no trials, none of that, and he was just out of FCS. So it's a knock that, to me, being able to play in both, I just don't believe in. But at the same time, it definitely can be a disadvantage and hurt you in the draft.
Oh, we've got a question from Rob. He asks, what are the most notable differences in training between college and pros? So what's your routine like? How long are your days, breaks? What are the notable differences, would you say? What shocked you, if anything, or surprised you?
I would say efficiency. A lot of the workouts, like you in college, you'll work out for like an hour, hour and a half. And it's like, all right, what are you doing in that hour, hour and a half? Or a lot of it is science-based as far as body mechanics and how the body just moves. You'll learn a lot about that as you start doing pro training, things that'll just help you keep your body healthy. That has been the biggest thing. Everything like, hey, if there's something don't feel right, don't do it. There's alternative ways to get that same work in and take care of your body at the same time. In college, a lot of it is just do it, muscle through it. It's just a little pain. You got to go hard all the time, grind. And yes, you have to grind, but you also got to be smart. So I think that just the mental aspect of how you go about it, the smart ways, the healthier ways, the safer ways has been the biggest difference.
Totally get that. Like I say, looking after your body must be the key, because these camps are coming up, pre-season games. Like I say, one minor nick and it could set you back massively, like on the roster bubble. So it's be smarter, not fast. Yeah, I get that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got another question from Phil here. He goes, is there a cut-off time when you can't learn anything more from old tape? And he uses the example of Sean Taylor, I think, who was drafted in 2004. Can you still go back 15, 20 years and look at the tape from, secondary guys then and still learn from them? Or has the league changed that much now that, you've got to look at, the more recent future to be able to adapt to it?
To me, especially I am like a film nerd, so I feel like there's always something you can learn. You can always go back and look at your old film, somebody else's film. They're seeing things differently or they're moving differently. They're not you. So you may be wondering why they did this, what coverage they're in. Are you able to it? And it's not necessarily technique and ability as far as seeing what they're doing, but it's like, all right, can I watch film or watch this play and know what the defense is running based off of their drops or whatever's going on. So you can learn from that way as well, being able to just have play recognition. Understanding sometimes you got to go back to watching old film and understand that, all right, this coach, this player, this quarterback learned from this coach. This is what this coach loved to do or what he liked to do back then, and has that changed up to the future. So you kind of got to go back and forth between the two. Obviously, guys are getting bigger, but also faster. You have a lot more freak athletes than I would say back then. Like everybody's running 4 or 5 now. You got D linemen and people 260 that's running 4.5 and 4.58, 4.48 and stuff. It's like, how DK Metcalf, as big as he is, it's crazy that he's running 4.3. Like you don't just see that all the time. So it's becoming more and more common that people are more athletic and faster. So in that sense, you do have to change up how you approach tight ends now. They're faster, they're more athletic. Receivers included, running backs now, they're not just pounding ground and they're just running straight at you or anything like that. They're a lot shiftier. They're a lot bigger. You have bigger corners, bigger everything. So in that sense, it has changed, but those Ed Reeds and Sean Taylors, there's always something you can learn from them. Always.
So you say you're a bit of a film nerd. Who's the guy whose tape you like to go back and watch and go, you're like, man, I wish I could, be like him? Is there a certain guy you go back to and just love to watch?
A lot of it is Ed Reed and Tyrann Mathieu. Ed Reed, I remember he was talking about Peyton Manning. He was talking about he knew from watching film, which is something that I never looked at that time. It was like 2 years ago, but he was like, every time he looks to his right, he's gonna look left, he's gonna look right, but he's gonna come back to his left. And the way you know he's gonna come back to his left is because he's gonna pat the ball. If he doesn't pat the ball when he looks right, it's going right. And that's just being a safety, reading eyes, like I said, mannerisms, things like that. And that's probably something Peyton Manning doesn't even realize he does until Ed Reed said it and made a play on him where he's acting like, yeah, I'm biting on your eyes, but I know you're coming back this way, so I'm going to speed turn this and make this play. So watching him and just how a lot of his plays weren't him being an athlete, it was him being smart. And Tyrann Mathieu was times, even like I said, especially now in the league, I've seen him line up on a line of scrimmage, and at the snap of the ball, he's sprinting back to close the post, and he's making a play. And it's like, all right, how are you doing that? What's going on around you that makes you comfortable enough to feel like, all right, I can get there? Because he's not a blazing fast guy. He's quick and reactive, but he's not a blazer. So it's like, how are you able to get all the way down there at the snap of the ball and you're 40 yards back there making a play? So stuff like that, those guys, and the way he took the ball away in college, like going back to that old film, like, all right, how are you just taking the ball away the way you were out of nowhere? It's almost like they were giving it to him. So just understand that maybe how he did that. Plays when I remember his first play that was kind of like the Honey Badger play. I think it was against Seattle where he's running and the receiver, he has a touchdown. Everybody thinks he has a touchdown. Tyrann, instead of going for the tackle, he goes and punches the balls out the back of the end zone. And it's like, all right, who thinks of that? Like, why are you thinking dive and punch the ball out right now and he's a yard away from the end zone or 2 yards away from the end zone? But that's just the playmaking ability and the mindset that he has. So those guys are definitely my top two. And Sean Taylor, his just physical ability, his fearlessness, which is kind of where I get my punt returner from. I kind of took that from him as a safety and put it as a punt returner. He's just fearless. He's not afraid of contact. He's just gonna go play ball. Very free spirited, and he's very much a family person. There's a lot of stories about him going, like, after he would leave, go back and forth to Miami, all the way back to Washington just to be with his daughter. So stuff like that is not always football. You know, you learn life things as well.
Yeah. You mentioned on the film side, obviously guys in the past, Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, etc. Like when you played against Trevor Lawrence this year, for example, did you learn things in film review after going against him, see little things with him, or was it more around his general arm talent and things like that rather than how he was manipulating the defense?
I think it was more one couple plays it was arm talent. It was like, all right, only he or very few people would know to put this ball right here. And I was when I was guarding Amari Rodgers, and they was running the switch. They was running a 8-7 switch, and I was on top of it. I was there. I'm like, all right, you're not getting this ball. And I'm thinking, like, all right, he's playing to the sideline. If he throws this ball, it's going to have to be on the sideline, back pylon. But for some reason, he decides to throw it inside to the back of the end zone to that pylon that sits right underneath the goalpost, and we're still on the front pylon. And I'm like, what made him throw it there? And Amari just runs and go get it, knowing that he knew I was going to look. At some point, I have to turn my head if I'm on top. So he knew that, and he got me with it. And his arm strength, like I said, he wasn't close. It wasn't like he was at the 40 he was like the 50 or something. So it was like really a 60-yard throw on the money, perfect. Amari he barely had the toe tap to catch that. It wasn't crazy. So it was just like that. And he's just smart. He understands coverages. Like, we were getting the coverage. We thinking we're fooling him. He's like, all right, watch this. And dump it off somewhere, throw it here. And we're like, all right, man, like, how are you? Like, we thought we had you. But so certain stuff like that kind of amazes you, and it makes you go back and watch film a little bit more. Like, what is he seeing, or what are we doing that's maybe he's picking up on? So
Amari Rodgers is a shifty dude as well, as in you're going to have to go up against him in Green Bay. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I really want that rematch, because that was his catch against me, and I wasn't a fan of it. Yeah, obviously we went for a touchdown, so I didn't like that at all.
How are you doing for time? Like, I didn't ask you how long you've got, or have you got any commitments, or you're free to chat?
Oh yeah, no, we're good. We're done for the day. So any other time, I mean, right now I'll probably be watching film or something again, watching corrections or trying to make my own corrections or anything like that. But
At the next level, yeah. At the next level, is returning something that's still very important to you? Are you putting your name in the hat for kicks and punts, or do you want to lean more towards learning like the safety defensive back role? Are you happy to make your name on special teams?
Oh yeah, I definitely spent my time with special teams. Even when we first got here, me, Raw Vic, Khalif Raymond, we all just not told by the coaches, but we went back there like, all right, we're gonna catch some punts today. You know, we're gonna focus on the small things, elbows tucked. A lot of us trust our ability to catch, so it's like, all right, don't you trust your hands? You want to have confidence in your hands, but also there's techniques for if for some reason you bobble it, it goes through. Like there's techniques for that. So just practicing that, keeping elbows in, stuff like that. Just being sharp on those things. So, like I said, just like at JMU, I was like third string. My redshirt freshman year, I was third string punt returner. But two injuries happened in the same game, and now I'm returning. So having that experience is like, all right, this is very real. Where bodies could go down, you have to do it. So staying sharp on that. Also being a jack of all trades. If you can return, do everything, all these things on special teams, play multiple positions on defense, that adds value to you and adds value to the team as well.
I get that. Like I say, Jamal Agnew, who left, like say, primary returner, he forged a whole role for himself where he didn't get as many touches as Red like. So if you can be that dynamic weapon, like say, you're going to have a lot more value and see a lot more playing time. So I look forward to seeing that battle. I'd love to see you all taking punts and having fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun for
real. Has anyone else got a question or?
Yeah. So, quick one. How excited are you for camp? All this waiting. Obviously, you've had mini camp, you've had OTAs. No doubt you're grinding through the days now, but camp is days away, right? So you must be excited.
Yeah, I mean, you get a little anxious, you get riled up. I think it's times where we're doing walkthroughs and guys are a little bit faster. Like they're moving a little bit faster. Like, hey guys, it's a walkthrough. We can calm down. The coach has to calm us down sometimes because like, all right, I know y'all want to go. Like y'all so energized, ready to go. And everybody wants to get back to football. Put the pads on. Just get ready. We know that preseason games coming up in about 3 weeks, so we got to be ready for that as well. We're not going to take that lightly. There's a lot to prove this year, so I think everybody understanding that, and even if you're a rookie or you're new to the team, you understand where the Detroit Lions were last year, place-wise in the NFL, and how everybody sees them. And once you're a part of that team as a competitor and as a player, you're going to want to change that. So everybody's excited. Everybody's ready to go. And I'm just ready to just play football at the end of the day. It's times I forget that I'm in the NFL. I think my brother asked me that, and I was like, it's times I forget. I'm just out there playing football. So to me, it's just normal to just play ball and be out there on the field.
You've been very detailed, obviously, in all your positional bits where you've been and everything. But what would you say to Lions fans? What sort of player are they getting with you? What when they see you on the field? What sort of player are they going to get when you step on the field?
Somebody that's just definitely going to find a way to make plays. I think watching any college film or any film period, that's something that's always been a part of my game, is that I've blocked punts, I've blocked field goals, I've done it all. There's nothing that I feel like I can't do that helps my team. I'm not going to go out my way and try to do my own thing to make plays, but within the system, do whatever it takes to help the team win. That's been my role. That's always been my thing, a workhorse. Like I said, just knowing those different positions, like you were saying, that is what they're going to see. All right, this guy has to be smart. He has to be very tuned in and focused to be able to play all these different things, for them to be able to move him around as much as they do. And that's just something that I'm proving to the coaches, but also to them as well. The fans, we appreciate them. They've been very loyal. We know it's been rough, but Detroit fans, they're strong. They're very loyal. So, like I said, I owe it to them for the support and love that I've gotten from them since coming here, and I owe it to the team as well and to everybody in Detroit.
Well, I know from the short time we've spoken to you, we've seen you such a determined person, and we really hope that everything goes well there. Ryan, do you want to finish with the last one?
Yeah. Last question, like I said, to close out is we've just seen a team like Milwaukee manage to win a championship after 50 years. Do you dare to dream, like, say, Detroit, like, championship credentials? Like, how far is this team off? How far in the distance? Could you see them going all the way one day? Have they got that in them?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, at the end of the day, we are in the NFL, and everybody's good, you know. So it's not like, oh, this team, the players suck or no. Everybody's good. You're in the NFL. You made it. You're part of that 1% that they told you when you were a kid that you need a plan B for. So at the end of the day, everybody's good and everything's possible. Like I said, you just need to build the right chemistry. It's hard. It's very hard to go to the Super Bowl itself for any team that everybody feels a good team. It's hard for them or they don't make it. There's a lot of times they thought, you know, Lamar Jackson, oh, they're going to win a Super Bowl with him and the people they have. It happens all the time. LeBron, anybody, any sport. But I definitely feel like that's something that can happen and that will happen as long as we, like I said, continue to stay on the right mindset, the right path, acquire the right pieces, and just gel and be a team.
I appreciate that. Like I say, we appreciate time. We'll be looking out for you. We're definitely rooting for you. Like I say, we'll highlight you as a guy to watch throughout camp. Like, so it's been good to talk to you.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for coming on to the pod. It does mean a hell of a lot to us. So, all the best with camp. And obviously, we hope we'll see you on the team.
I appreciate y'all having me and reaching out to being here. It's kind of like a little step away a little bit, even though we're talking about football, you know, to talk to somebody that's not in the staff room or not a player on the team is definitely good. So I appreciate you guys having me and having any interest and support to have me on this podcast and this show.
It's fine, though. We'll wrap it up then, like I say. So, like I say, thank you to everyone listening. Thanks to our guest, D'Angelo Amos. Thanks to my co-host. And just one last thing to say is go Detroit and one pride. Thank you, guys.
All right, one pride.
One pride.